Hi, I'm Nabo. I'm a rising second-year bio major, and I'm going to be helping give this presentation on how to officially register for courses. So, this is basically a brief overview of what we're going to be doing, but let's get right into the meat of it. So, firstly, we're going to be talking about what GT1000 is. This is one of the few requirements of being an Explorer student. It is a mandatory course, and it's basically a one-credit seminar course that's designed to help us academically, socially, and emotionally adjusting to tech life. So you are encouraged to register for one of these Explore sections, EX1, EX2, and EX3, but you don't have to. There's actually a bunch of different GT1000 classes for most every major, and here are a couple of the other courses that might interest you. These are all the same 1 credit hour, but they have a different twist. So psychology majors learn about the careers in psychology, etc., etc. Let me also point out the CRN numbers for each of these. These are basically what you're going to be using to register, the course registration numbers. So as I go through these, if any of these classes catch your eye, make sure you write down the CRNs or refer back to this handout later. Anyway, a couple of the other courses that we have, other than the mandatory GT1000 class, is an English class, English 1101 for the fall semester, and then we'll have English 1102 for the spring semester. This is a 3 credit hour class. It meets these times if you want the Explore section, which I highly recommend. And for the English 1102 times, those will be published to you guys second semester, spring. We also have APPH, which is a 2 credit hour wellness course that we reserved for us. APPH is a degree requirement for pretty much every major at Georgia Tech. Either this version, 1040, which is just health, or the 1050 class, which is more physically involved. These are the days they meet, and once again, these are the CRN numbers. For math courses, we have Math 1551, Differential Calculus, CRN, and the times they meet. For these courses, I'm going to make extra note of the lecture numbers, which is E lecture letters, and their corresponding studio sections, EO2, EO3. Basically, for these more credit hour courses, 4 credit, 3 credit, even some 2 credit hours, you have to make sure you register for both the lab and the lecture, or the lecture and the studio, for these classes together. If you don't register for them together, they won't let you register for either of them. So for Math 1551, say we have section E, we have to make sure we register for studio with section EO2, basically the letter plus some numbers. If I had section J, we need J06 or J07 or any of the numbers. So that was Calc 1. Calc 2 follows a similar thing. 4 credit hours, has lecture number here, and then the studio number that Explorer has reserved. We also have Math 1553, which is linear algebra, and we have Math 1554, which is linear algebra again, but it's a 4 credit hour class, more in depth, mainly catered toward math majors and computer science majors. So we also have chemistry and biology sections reserved. For chemistry, we have Chem 1, Chem 2, Chem 1212, and Gen Chem Overview class, which is Chem 1310. Once again, these classes have lab components, so you got to make sure you register for both the lecture, which would be the B, C, any letter, and then the lab components, which would be B, 26, or any number, and A, etc., etc. For biology classes, we have Biology 1 and its corresponding lab sections. And we also have this novel coronavirus class. It's new, and it seems very interesting. It's 1 credit hour, it means once a week, versus all these other sciencey classes, which are 4 credit hours. And now that we have all these CRNs down, remember the CRNs are the course numbers that you need to actually register for them. We can point out how to actually use them to register for the courses. So first, we would log into Buzzport. If you're having any issues saying that service logon is unavailable or issues like that, try opening it in a different browser or in an incognito tab. That makes it so your cached save files don't really affect anything. So once we get into Buzzport, we can click on the registration and student services part, and then click registration Oscar link, and then student services and financial aid. Then we would click registration. The term would be fall 2020, or if you're registering in the future, fall, spring of whichever year you're interested in. Then we would click add and drop classes. So, and then you'll just be presented with a couple of boxes, and in those boxes you type in the CRNs, or if you're really quick with it, you can just copy and paste them in. There are going to be individual boxes for each of them, so when you're preparing your CRNs in advance, make sure you separate them into like different areas that you can copy and paste in easily. And once again, make sure that you're registering for both the lab and the lecture together, the lab and the studio and the lecture, because those will give you errors. Aside from those errors, you might be hit with some of these other errors. There's a campus restriction, which would only really be an issue if you're trying to register for like a GT Lorraine class, which is in France, and of course we're in Atlanta. Class restriction if it's first year class and your second year, etc., etc. Not many of these. A closed section. This is probably going to be the most common one. If the class you're trying to register for is full, it won't let you do it. You might be able to get on a wait list for it, but not all classes offer a wait list. And you have to make sure that both your lab and the lecture, or the studio and the lecture components, are both available before you register for them. Because if one of them is full, then you can't register for either of them. Major restrictions, permit request rejections, and then prereq and test score errors and time conflict errors. These are some of the other errors that you might be faced with, but these are also a little bit less likely with some pre-planning. And of course there's this link with many other errors, but these are probably the most common ones you'll get. And here's some basic solutions on how to do it in the slide. Other than that, if you have any other issues or questions about registration, feel free to ask any of us, the student assistants. We're happy to help. And I hope you guys have a great summer and an awesome fall.